And we're starting off with NXT, as next week's show will be the Gold Brand's Heatwave special, and there was plenty of build towards that on last night's episode. On this week's show, Wes Lee faced off with Dijak, with the winner earning an NXT title shot at Heatwave, and it was Lee who was able to get the win. For fairness, we should mention that Lee's win was far from clean, as Eddie Thorpe was at ringside distracting Dijak, giving Lee the advantage to take his much bigger opponent off guard. Nevertheless, Wes Lee is now the #1 contender for the NXT Championship, and this week's show went off the air with Lee vowing to prove his doubters wrong. Lee has certainly been somebody to watch in NXT, and in addition to having the longest North American title reign, was mere days short of having the longest cumulative time with that title before losing to Dominik Mysterio. Many felt it was only a matter of time before Lee was elevated to the NXT title picture, but should he win the gold next week, or is it too soon for him? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. Lee vs. Carmelo Hayes will almost certainly headline next week's NXT Heatwave, but that won't be the only major match on the card. During this week's NXT, Dominik Mysterio and Rhea Ripley were once again on the show, and Ripley called out Lyra Valkyria and Dragon Lee in a backstage promo. Ripley argued that Valkyria should have been grateful for the Women's World Champion's endorsement after the two did battle last month, and the two will do battle again. With Mysterio by her side, Ripley revealed that NXT Heatwave will see herself and Dirty Dom face Valkyria and Dragon Lee in a mixed tag team match during next week's special episode. While Rhea and Dom are inseparable on TV, this will be the first time in months that they have teamed together, with their last tag match coming on the May 5th Smackdown in Puerto Rico. That match saw the Judgment Day members lose to Rey Mysterio and Zelina Vega, and Ripley and Dom are no doubt looking for a different result when they team together next week at Heatwave. On this week's Raw, Piper Niven made her return to programming with an impact, attacking Kaden Carter and Katana Chance in a backstage segment before turning her attention to Chelsea Green. Rather than attack Green, Niven took the women's tag title that Sonya Deville had been carrying prior to her ACL injury, raising questions as to whether this apparent title change was legitimate. Well, it turns out it is, as on WWE's official roster page, Niven is now listed as one half of the WWE Women's Tag Team Champions, kicking off her first reign as a tag team champion since coming to WWE. WWE had intended for a nice, simple, incident-free reign for Green and Deville, given that so many past reigns have ended due to injuries, or in one case suspensions, but a simple reign wasn't meant to be. Niven and Green can now look forward to being the defending champions, but did you think this was a good way to change titles, or was it a sign of disrespect? Sound off in the comments. Prior to Niven taking the Women's Tag Team Championship for herself, Green had been looking for a new partner and had quite the unique way of trying to find a replacement for Sonya Deville. On social media, Green had been hosting Chelsea's Got Talent, her own version of America's Got Talent, where users were encouraged to submit applications as to why they should be her next ally. The concept quickly went viral on social media, with both wrestlers and fans sending in their credentials, and this idea quickly caught the attention of WWE themselves. Fightful Select reports that WWE officials were very happy with the buzz about Chelsea's Got Talent, but clearly the plan for Niven was already in place by the time Green started her hunt. Perhaps if the Niven plan hadn't already been decided upon, Chelsea's Got Talent would have made it to TV, but the response by WWE officials certainly bodes well for the future of the Canadian superstar. For some time now, WWE and MLW have been engaged in a legal battle in which the indie promotion claims WWE pressured a broadcast partner to back out of a deal. MLW's argument is that WWE holds an unfair, illegal monopoly over the wrestling world, hence why their broadcast partner bowed out, and now WWE has provided its defense. In a 25-page rebuttal, WWE revealed the many defenses they may make in court, such as claiming that MLW has not in fact suffered injury to their business via WWE's alleged interference. Another defense claims that even if WWE did interfere, then WWE speaking to the broadcast partner would be permitted under state or federal law, and that WWE had business of their own to discuss. In the past, WWE has even argued that AEW's success blows away the claim that they have an unfair monopoly, and the irony of Vince McMahon turning to Tony Khan to help him out in this case. This legal battle has been going on for years, with WWE trying and failing to have the case thrown out, and we'll continue to follow this case for further updates. Unless you've been living under a rock or on Mars with your eyes shut and your fingers in your ears over the past few days, you'll be aware of the latest controversy surrounding CM Punk. It recently came to light that Punk has been banning certain wrestlers from AEW Collision tapings, including Ryan Nemeth, who in addition to being a wrestler, is also the brother of Dolph Ziggler. On Twitter, Ziggler shared his love for his brother, donning a Ryan Nemeth shirt and saying his brother is a hunk, and questioned how the fans are celebrating Hunk Appreciation Day. Ziggler didn't mention Nemeth by name, but fans in the comments saw this as a sign of solidarity over the Punk situation, and we imagine that Dolph will be the next name banned from AEW Collision. More from the Punk situation, as it's safe to say that he and the Elite do not get along, hence why the two sides are being kept as far apart as possible. It's been reported that Punk has expressed interest in working with the Elite, but the faction have no plans to work with him. But could a match involving the two sides still happen? Speaking on the Torgan Elliott show, AEW's Mark Henry suggested that Punk vs Kenny Omega is the dream match for the fans, and personally believes the match is just a matter of time. Henry gave his own booking suggestion, saying that he'd have a situation where the AEW World Championship was up for grabs in a tournament, which would end with Punk vs Omega in the finals. While Punk may be open to the match, Omega has opted to keep distant from Punk, and we doubt the recent antics of the real world champion will have softened the Elite's stance on Punk. Punk vs Omega would certainly be a draw, and is this a match you'd like to see? Or do you think such a match wouldn't work? Sound off in the comments. It wasn't too long ago that Omega, along with the rest of the Elite, signed new contracts with AEW, ones that will keep Omega, the Young Bucks, and Hangman Page around for a very long time. It's been reported that the Bucks' new deal is the most expensive contract of any tag team in wrestling history, but how long exactly are these new deals for? During the interview, Henry let it slip that Omega signed a 4-year deal with AEW, and given the Elite negotiated as a unit, it's believed that all 4 members signed contracts of the same length. In this case, that means fans can enjoy Omega, the Bucks, and Hangman Page with AEW until 2027, and then there's always the likely chance they'll sign a new deal at that time. The Elite held several rounds of voting to decide their future, and at times, multiple members voted to leave with the hope of signing with WWE, who had been greatly interested in the group. Ultimately, the Elite remained with All Elite Wrestling, much to the delight of Tony Khan, and while WWE will likely still be interested, the group won't be free for many years to come. One name who knows all about working for WWE and AEW is Paul Wight, who competed for decades as the Big Show before his shocking jump to the All Elite company. In interviews, Wight has said that WWE's reluctance to have him wrestle in the final years of his run with them led to his decision to leave, but the former world champion hasn't competed much in AEW. Wight has just 4 matches since joining AEW, with his most recent match happening over a year ago, but now the 7-foot-tall legend is preparing to don his singlet once again. Taking to Instagram, Wight thanked Jose Mora, a celebrated wrestling bootmaker, and showed off his new wrestling boots, indicating that a return to the ring is in the works. Mora has worked with several wrestlers over the years, including Natalya, Drew McIntyre, and Omos, so making giant-sized wrestling boots for Wight is hardly new for the bootmaker. There's no word yet on when Wight will wrestle again, but it's clear that he will be getting back in the ring. And who do you hope the giant face is in his return to the ring? And we're ending with Liyah, who has been fully recovered from a recent injury for months, but in that time, WWE simply hasn't been using the former women's tag team champion. On Twitter this week, Liyah shared a photo showing she'd landed in Toronto, the home of this Friday's Smackdown, leading some to suspect that she'll return to TV on the show. When fans asked, Liyah clarified that while she'll be at Smackdown, she won't be used on the show, but will be in the crowd where fans can get a selfie. Liyah's name came up a few months back on a list of talent expected to be released after the WWE-UFC merger is done, and we'll have to see if her in-crowd appearance this Friday leads to anything more for the former WWE Women's Tag Team Champion.